呪術師って変なやつ多いけど、こいつは会社勤めてただけあってしっかりしてんだよね。一級呪術師だし。他の方もあなたには言われたくないでしょうね。
グラさん、目隠してる人多いな。
Hey everybody, welcome back to the podcast. Me and Oscar today as we're going to talk about Jujutsu Kaisen. So of course, Jujutsu Kaisen is published in Weekly Shonen Jump. This started back in 2018 and it's currently ongoing with 162 chapters. And this is written and drawn by Gigi Akutami. So let's just get right into it, man. This stars our main character, Yuji Itadori. He's your high school boy who has exceptional strength, but he doesn't want to do any sports or any of those kind of club activities. He just wants to relax, hang out and chill. So that's why he joined the occult club that's going on, and they needed one member or else they were going to close. One day he goes to visit his grandpa and tells him, like, hey, you know what, man? You have this strength. You should help people. It doesn't have to be all the time, but do whatever you can. Just you have this gift. You should be able to use it. And it was at that moment his grandfather died. As he's leaving the hospital, here comes our other main character, Megumi Fushiguro. And he is from a place called Jujutsu High School. And is there because there is a mysterious item that he's looking for. And he was told that Yuji found it. And it's a box that contains a curse. His friends from the club has it. And as they break the seal, because it's so old, it was weak, it brought out these curses at the school. And now they have to go fight them. Even though Yuji's strong, he doesn't have any curse energy to really deal serious damage. And Megumi's just getting his ass whooped. Yuji just does what a crazy main character does, decides to eat this finger that has this curse from this demon who is known as Sukuna, one of the most powerful throughout history. Eats it, he gains all this power, but then he gets possessed by Sukuna. And, he does his usual evil monologue. And then next thing you know, Yuji's like, actually, I could still control my body. I'm fine. And then eventually he gets knocked out, gets brought back to, I think it's Jujutsu High, or it's one of the places where these sorcerers go. And that's where we meet Gojo, everyone's favorite character, the strongest sorcerer. And says, hey, we have a deal, man. You're going to be executed because you're considered a curse now. But it'd be a shame to not use your ability of resistance to Sukuna's possession. So there's 20 fingers in total. You're going to eat them all. And then after that, we're going to kill you. But in the meantime, why don't you come to Jujutsu High and we'll train you how to use curses and you can go on the field. And since you're attracted to the other fingers, it'll be easier to find and all that. So he says, yeah, you know what? My grandpa's dying wish was to help people. I might as well do it before I die. And that's what kicks off this intense manga. And I gotta say, this is a pretty good one. I can see why it's popular.
Yeah, at first, I was kind of picky on some of the transitions that they kind of had at the beginning during certain parts of the series as well. But overall, I can definitely see why it's becoming so increasingly popular. I'm a really big fan of just the overall plot. Character arcs are interlaid within the chapters in the series. It's pretty good. I'd say by far the most interesting thing about most of these characters isn't so much like the crazy powers that they have. It's just like the whole mindset that they have when it comes to using them. I think that it's been like said and done for like super crazy characters to have like lots of unique powers or OP powers and stuff like that, but it's kind of rare when we see people who kind of have like I would say mid-range powers or like maybe like potential OP powers and an even sharper mind to like use them in certain precarious ways. Like it just kind of reminds me of My Hero a little bit when it comes to those things.
Yeah, or something like JoJo, the way the fights come out with those weird ass stands. Yeah, like like the main girl, Nobura, right? She uses a hammer and nails, and you wouldn't think it'd be that effective, especially like in her first fight that we see her do. But as we get further into the series and we see her do other fights, it's like, oh, actually no, she has a good way of setting things up and using those abilities to the limit. as well as like there's another character whose curse energy allows him to teleport or swap positions with something that has curse power by just clapping his hands. I just gotta say, like, it was always hyped to see him come into the battlefield, especially teaming up with our boy Yuji and just wrecking these curses. That's the cool thing about this. Like, the fights are really engaging and they can be fun.
Yeah, I get those like Great Ninja War vibes when I look at all of these fights, and this is just throughout the entire series. Like, I feel like every fight is close to like that Madara-esque like level of destruction that you can get from some of these powers. It's pretty interesting. Let me see. So far, I have to give it up to Fushiguro. A lot of his powers are really cool and unique, and I do like the fact that he reminds me of like Sai from Naruto, and just the ability to like control and summon like all sorts of like demons and stuff like that. And the demons that he has are really cool too. Like I'm a really big fan of the, what's it called? Nue. Yeah, Nue is
yeah.
probably, yeah. Nue is probably one of the cooler ones that I saw, like the shadow owl like thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I like his abilities. The way he can summon them by doing the shadow puppets with his hands. I was like, oh, that's cool. That's not something I would have expected for him to be able to summon them like that. And yeah, their designs are pretty strong too, because that's another highlight of this series is great designs for the curses for the most part, especially like the more powerful ones. And like the high ranking ones that are created out of the fear of just natural elements. Like that stuff, those characters were pretty cool. You know, after reading and catching up, I was thinking, yeah, it makes sense now why I always see this manga always get paired with Chainsaw Man. And not only because, you know, it's the same anime that studio that's going to be doing Chainsaw Man, but just the similarities in here are crazy. Like the way the curses are formed here, it's the same way as the devils in Chainsaw Man. Characters are very similar to each other. And another cool thing about the series is the rough art style it has. Right? Usually as, you know, you get more modern, it gets crisper and cleaner. Like you could tell what era a manga is based on its art style. And then here it's like, oh, it's rough. Like you wouldn't even think it would be a 2021 manga based on just everything else that's out there.
Yeah, I did notice some of that, even with some of the recent chapters that I was trying to catch up on a little bit earlier. I just think that it shows, or it's supposed to show or dictate, like those instances where, you know, like the fight is getting, I would say really intense. You know, like it reminds me of like those instances in like Dragon Ball Z where, you know, they could be like just talking and then they flash step, and then from flash stepping, you know, they're going into like these super close like CQC battles, and every punch is like distorting like the whole entire screen and whatnot because of all the force of power that they have into it. It just reminds me of like those kind of instances. I saw a recent fight with one of the characters from Tokyo High, Maki.
Yeah, she's great.
Dude, Maki is by far my favorite character of the series. I just think that she was really cool that she'd just be like, they have like that I don't really know if you remember it, but it's called like Heavenly Disposition or something like that.
Yes.
So it's like instead of being like blessed with curse energy, it's you just have like a really strong body or something like that. And so I just think it's really cool altogether what kind of character Maki actually developed into. From where she began at, and like how things have progressed to where they are now, and that whole entire fight that she had against her clan, I personally think was really cool. I saw where like you can see the art get really, I guess I would call it like degraded, where it's like just kind of like you're referring to, like it's just pretty much just like framework or basic sketches were just supposed to come together before they finalize stuff. I saw a lot of that in that whole little segue that they had for Maki fighting her family. But it was cool, man. Like, it didn't really take away from the seriousness and, with all due respect, all intensity of the fight that I was watching. It was maybe for a couple panels here and there, so not the entirety of it all, but all the same, I like the art style, whether it gets like really simple at times or even really more detailed at times, altogether, regardless. And I just think it's because it hasn't really changed up at all since the manga began in 2018. I'm pretty much a sucker for keeping things the way they are. unless I guess there has to be like a time skip or like a really long hiatus or something like that. That would kind of like be a really good reason for you to just change the way that you've been drawing things or editing things altogether.
Yeah, I feel you. I think it was a good choice to go with the rough art style here, all rugged and everything, mainly because this is not a happy-go-lucky type of shonen series, right? Like, it gets really intense, and, you know, character situations just aren't as positive as you would think, just like we're saying with Maki and, like, her whole backstory that she has, which we delve into multiple times as we were talking about her family. Like, it's one of the main branches when it comes to the sorcerers in Japan. Yeah, it just makes sense to have it like that. Similar to exactly how it is like in Chainsaw Man. You know, like, it's not necessarily a happy series or a positive series, so why would you have the clean art style when you can complement it with something rough and it'll fit the themes? You know, like when you said it was super rough in that fight that she just did recently, it's like, oh, that makes sense because you could just feel the raw emotions that she's having in that whole situation of her fighting all these people. And then to my surprise, there's actually a good amount of humor in the manga that I wasn't expecting. Like, I knew there was going to be some because I just seen bits and pieces from the anime, but I didn't expect as much as we got with as many characters as we did, but it felt natural and it was actually good comedy. I was liking it. Especially when our boy was just like, hey, Yuji, what kind of girls do you like? If you like tall women with big asses, you have my respect. Like, that's funny.
There's definitely a lot of places in the manga where you can get your little sentimentalities on a lot of things and a lot of just character relations altogether. I had to say, like, the part that probably sticks out to me the most was the Mahito arc. And they met like that kid Junpei and his mom and stuff like that. It's, man, like, just the way that arc resolved really, really got to me, dude. And I was like, that's fucking heavy, dude. You know, where not every arc is going to have that closure that you were looking for. And it's just sometimes you have to have that hurt with you just to see yourself get through the next story. Yeah, a lot of these powers are really crazy too. Like, you were talking earlier about like how some of these demons and, you know, curses are like just derived of natural elements. Like, I think the craziest ones are the abstract ones, like Mahito himself, just being created from like technically the element of humans hating humans, just overall anger, ire, and jealousy. Just giving that a sentient form in itself, and, you know, having like Shikigeki powers from My Hero Academia is fucking crazy.
Yeah, and all of his fights were crazy and intense, and they were always a little bit different as it got further. All of his abilities played out into the fights just make it so good. You know, one other positive thing, you know, I was kind of iffy on going in because I've heard about Gojo and how it's like, oh yeah, he says he's the strongest, and it's like, oh, because he is the strongest. He's like the most broken character in the series. But at seeing him fight, man, it always got me hyped up just to seeing what he can do. And then the way they handle him in one of the recent big arcs was like, yeah, that's really the only way you can do it. And so the plot kind of shifts into the focus on Gojo. I find that interesting because one aspect about this manga is, I mean, Yuji's the main character, but he's not the main focus for almost the whole series. Like, even when he comes in and joins the high school, it's not like he's any special or different just because he can eat Sukuna's fingers, and like, this is a big role that they have. Like, they could finally get rid of this curse that's been around forever, right? Because they can't exercise the fingers because they're just too powerful. So you would think like, right. Oh, okay, so it's gonna be all about him, kind of similar to like if Deku, right, as he's like a big important character because he has All for One. But that's not the case here. Story is really just about the world as a whole and what's going on. Like, as we get to the main antagonist, like, his plan was going to happen with or without Yuji eating Sukuna. So Yuji wouldn't even be here, and the story would still go on. That's what I find interesting.
Yeah, the way that he played it off, it was more like it's a bonus that he just happens to be here, you know, so that way when everything just comes together, it's just going to be that much more easier for them to take over the world. No, I definitely agree with you on a lot of things. I would have to say, now that we're caught up, do you find yourself or see yourself going back and looking into any of the parts that were animated?
Yeah, I've been told a couple times from people that you should just watch it because the anime is the better version. You know me, I figured if the manga is first, I will read the manga because that's the That's the better version, I think, for the most part. But there's definitely some fights in here that I would like to see animated. If those fights are like the super high budget stuff, like, you know, like when Gear 4th got revealed in One Piece, I'm like, oh, I'm watching that because I want to see how they do it. And the transformation was just amazing. So I think, yeah, for sure, I would want to see some of that. Definitely want to see the movie coming out soon, Jujutsu Kaisen 0.
Is that supposed to be like the prequel?
Did you read Volume 0?
It's just called Jujutsu Kaisen 0 something high, right? Because I just saw that earlier.
Yeah, there's 3 chapters, and it stars different main characters. It has Maki, where she's in there, but hold on, let me pull up his name because I forget what it is. Yeah, the main character for Zero is Yuta. His girlfriend's the curse that he has to possess. As you find out in there, like, his power is curse manipulation, which is a rare thing, and he's the one that actually kept his girlfriend's spirit alive by becoming a curse. So I read it 0 first and then just went into the main series, not knowing that Zero came much later. But it's good. I recommend it. Again, it's only 3 chapters, and we get to meet everybody from that high school. So Maki, the panda, and the guy whose curse power is his voice, so that we see them get introduced there. That's being animated to the movie, and I'm like, I'm looking forward to that because that was a pretty good volume.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm actually looking at this now that you're talking about it. I definitely got to look at this prequel. Because this guy was cool, and I noticed that I think they mentioned that he was also somebody who was secretly sent for execution.
Yeah.
I don't know if they revealed any of that in the series.
Yeah, he was set for execution in the prequel, similar to Yuta. Yeah, I would say read it, because I read it first, so I get to see how his character was. And then eventually he does come back into the mainline series. And just to see the difference, I'm like, oh wow, like, yeah, you could tell he's been doing this for, I think it was like only a year, because he was a freshman or something, and I think him and Maki, they're sophomores now, right? So yeah, but
I think Maki's a second year, and he's a second year too. Yeah, sophomore. Yeah,
so about a year time skip from there. One thing I do want to say, because based on my feelings with Demon Slayer, it involves Yuji. I think Yuji is a fine character, but he's not really anything special. He doesn't feel like main character material. He feels like he is the average when it comes to a male protagonist. Like, you know, there's really nothing special about him. He doesn't really have any passion. He's kind of just, you know, living through the moments prior when he's joining that call. He's like, I just want to be a normal kid and make friends. So there's really nothing going on that makes him stand out. The only thing that makes him stand out is the fact that he can hold this curse in his body. But to my big surprise, he doesn't even use Sukuna's powers in the series. I thought that was like going to be the whole thing. It's just like, oh, because, you know, the memes I see are like, oh, this is the main character, this is the hero of the series, but he looks like the villain. But he never really uses it. I was like, oh, okay. But it's just his powers. And yeah, just going through, I'm like, yeah, he's just there kind of thing, which I think also goes to like why he's not the main focus. And I think to me that's similar to Tanjiro, because I don't think he's anything special either in Demon Slayer. But I think it works here better than in Demon Slayer because, like I said, the world is the focus for the story, whereas Demon Slayer, it's really about the characters as well as the world, but more focus on characters over there.
I mean, I at least could really claim the same thing about My Hero Academia. That's where I pretty much saw all of the really common niche things too. And just like you're saying with Demon Slayer, I just feel like, yes, just like Tanjiro, we have Yuji, and it's every other character that kind of helps him, you know, with upbringing, with his upbringing, and to, you know, how he became, you know, this great swordsman that was able to kill, you know, the demon of all demons and, you know, be done with that. Just like in this, you know, in this aspect, we have Yuji, and he's coming to terms with being an exorcist and just doing what he can, however he can, and, you know, just really abiding by everything that his grandpa and all of his other morals just kind of stand for. Now, I think that we're more leaning towards him more or less changing his character into, like, he's kind of seeing, like, immediate outcomes of his choices, whether he does good or not, whether he decides to save somebody or not, whether he kills somebody or not. Like, there's always an immediate outcome that's going to have either a greater consequence either to him or to, you know, people he's like trying to protect. and that's going to change him. And I'm just really looking forward to seeing, like, I don't know, I guess him breaking out of that shell that you see him as and just kind of being like some mundane, average, regular schmo with a power, and just actually growing into some sort of character, or at least a main character that can be like, okay, you know, in this whole series where everyone is just kind of like so savory and great, and like here you are just kind of being bland and average. Now we can finally see you like kind of fitting into the rest of the series.
I honestly hope so. And I think another thing that factors into that is his detachment from this world, right? Like, he's only here recently. Like, he hasn't been living this life, much like Maki, much like Megumi and everybody else he interacts with. So that part is understandable. But yeah, I do hope like he could get a big character development moment soon and like give him some real change. But
he's really the only one that did it out of sheer willingness. Like, nobody wanted to really be an exorcist, and neither really did he, I guess, but he was just more or less willing to just eat the damn finger and just be like, all right, whatever happens Everyone else in this series is so damn serious when it comes to their powers and, you know, their family background and all this other stuff, and he's just kind of unchained, just unbothered with it all, because none of that shit is relevant to him. You know what I mean? So it's like, you're right, like everything about him just kind of sticks out differently. It's just none of the rules and regulations apply to Yuji, and that in itself makes it bad, because we have all of these other characters developing in a certain pace or in a certain way, and it's just kind of like, all right, we'll just kind of get to Yuji, and the next time he needs to fight some demon, and we'll just kind of give him exposition on character growth then and there. You know, not really. If there are more instances, like maybe if we saw like flashbacks with his grandpa, or maybe if we learned a little bit about like just any other instances of his family, or like a relative or something like that. Shit, even if he were to like, I don't know, possibly take up a love interest that didn't have curse energy, and maybe we just kind of spend a few chapters just, you know, just kind of seeing what he feels like he should be looking for within, like, I don't know, I guess a person, you know? Anything to really just kind of round out Yuji, as to not make him like that generic, like, all I gotta do is fight, I just gotta get to the next person, we just gotta worry about the next challenge, blah blah blah, rah rah rah, I'm Goku.
yeah, I will say for sure we're gonna see some change in his character, only because of what they've been hinting in the past few arcs about his past that even he doesn't know about, and that'll probably give him more motivation and determination to be just more, I guess, focused and responsible into what he's doing. Like, sure, he's making an effort because he wants to help people, but he's also wavering because he doesn't want to kill people, which is what he's had to do in certain situations in the manga. But I think he just needs that anchor to really solidify, like, okay, what am I really doing, and get in there. We'll probably get that soon, but probably not in this current arc. I don't know, because the current arc is the game arc that some mangas have, and it's a little weird, but I mean, I'm looking forward to see what's going on, just for the fights mainly, but I'm just hoping we'll see that soon.
I'm still hoping that we'll see a return of some certain characters coming back. I know that out of the three main characters, one character I'm still kind of waiting to see, and then another character that I really like grew into. I don't know if you remember the teacher, Kento Nanami.
Yeah,
he was great. I liked him. He was really cool, and I know that he's not going to come back, but goddamn, I hope that a certain person does come back, and that she ends up being a lot like Nanami, because I think that they're really kind of like the same when it comes to the way that they fight and their powers and stuff like that.
Yeah, there was one death for sure where I was like, oh, that character's not really dead, just because of how it played out. And then even currently now in the chapters of how they talked about it after like this big arc just ended, I'm like, oh yeah, no, they'll definitely come back, just probably not for a good while. I think the manga is just waiting for a chance to bring that person back in a good moment, and then be like, oh yeah, guess what, I'm even stronger than last time because I was training the whole time. And there might be a gag in there too, because there was a gag with Yuji's death as well. So I could see maybe this arc, but it might be a little too soon, but we'll see. There's some side stuff, especially with Sukuna, that I kind of want to see more of. That we'll probably get, like the big flashback arcs that we'll get into about the past with old Exorcist and with Sukuna and all that good stuff. And I think that'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, a lot of those characters are pretty much what makes the show at this point.
But other than that, yeah, I would say definitely check out this manga. It's one of the greats of the new age of Shonen Jump.
Yeah, I think if anything, you'll be a really big fan of just the fights and the powers. Especially like once you start getting into domains. Domains are really cool.
Oh yeah, that's a thing I forgot to bring up. It's cool because it's like a field spell in Yu-Gi-Oh. That's just how it works. And that's nice because that means we could just get all of these different environments for the fights, and then that'll change the fights up instead of just being where they were, which was in like downtown Tokyo or something, right? In the last major arc before this one.
Yeah, everybody has their own version of the Shadow Realm. Is basically what that is. Like when they cast domain, just like you're saying with the field spell, it's just like this is my Shadow Realm. This is how my Shadow Realm works, and this is how it helps my power do this.
I like that aspect a lot of this.
Mostly, a lot of the demons were the ones that had like the
more unique ones.
Expansions. Yeah, the really awesome ones. Anyway, I think by far my favorite for a while was, of course, the Unlimited Void, the Gojos. But I'm not gonna lie. After the whole city arc. The self-embodiment of perfection, like Mahito's. His is really, really cool.
It's really broken.
I really like... Yeah, it's stupid awesome, dude. Like, oh, God. That's just I just keep thinking to myself, if there's a fighting game of this, and this guy's a character, oh, my God, it's going to go off.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll do like a 3D fighter for this one. That'd be cool to see, yeah, and however they would utilize the other domains would be pretty cool. Yeah, some of that stuff is great. A lot of great action overall. Every character really is solid. There really isn't a character that I dislike, really. There's even one character that betrays Jujutsu High. And the writing is good enough to where, we understand his character. Even though there's really not a whole lot of screen time with him. But you just know the basic backgrounds of what he wants and all that stuff. And then we get these final moments with him, and I was like, "Oh, you know what? That's good." Even though he betrayed, everybody, there was a reason, and you can forgive him. I was like, "That's really good."
Yeah, all the same, man. Like, I know it just sounds like repeated over and over again, but yeah, like now that I'm just getting reminded of all of these good, juicy parts along the way, like it's definitely worth the read, even reread if you've already seen it before. It just kind of giving me the same feeling I had when I was reading Evangelion.
Heck yeah, man! Yeah, I can't wait to see what we have in store for it. And with that, I think we can go ahead and wrap up for this episode. Thanks for listening, guys. If you have any questions or comments, you can email those to unversepodcast@gmail.com. And then you can follow us anywhere on social media at unversepodcast, and we'll let you know when those episodes drop. So thank you, guys, and we will catch you on the next one.